I know I was muted there for a second. Sorry, my computer does that sometimes. Pretty sure everybody can hear me now. Let's get a thumbs up in the chat if you don't mind, if you guys can hear me okay. Sometimes my computer turns off in the middle of the night and it messes with the audio settings for some reason. Anyway, so we haven't done Truth in Movies for a couple of weeks because I was focusing on some other content, but we're back and we're going to do Return to Oz. Part 2, the sequel to The Wizard of Oz. We have broke down and decoded The Wizard of Oz, the original one. So if you want to watch that one first, feel free to check it out. It's in the Truth in Movies playlist. Right now we're going to check out Part 2. This one's dark. This one's a dark version of The Wizard of Oz. Hey, thanks for all the thumbs up in the chat, everybody. Thanks for helping out. Looks like we got Special K, Undocumented Human Project, Matology, Aaron Harthen, Ryan Hill, Alice of Realms, Top Secret, the Pisces God. Good to see everybody. All right, cool. Let's jump right into the dark version of The Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz. Now, keep in mind all the things that we discussed in the first one. As usual, this is brought to you by Mount Meru, right? So the first thing you're going to see is the Disney Castle, which is basically Mount Meru. And I've gone over that many different times. It is cross-sectioned by 4 rivers. It is Mount Meru at the center of the world at the North Pole. And then you see a light lighting up in the middle of this castle, which is really just Mount Meru. So the light lights up, and then you see the Disney logo coming. That's the light of the world. That's the light that's inside of the earth that will come up, terrestrial plasma that shoots up in sky beams. And then you have this dome that's created around Mount Meru. This is the electromagnetic dome, or a barrier. It acts as a barrier, an electromagnetic one, a frequency barrier, you could also say, that goes around that island and helps to keep out people from getting into paradise, basically. And it's also the Ouroboros. It's the electromagnetic current that goes around that island. So that's always going to be how we start things. And then they show you the sky. This is how we begin. They show you the sky, and there's going to be a lot of firmament symbolism in this movie, and mirror symbolism, and passing through the mirror, which is akin to space travel or fractal verse travel. They show you the sky. You're looking up at the dome, at the firmament, at all these little points of focus up there. And then they have the Walt Disney Pictures Presents in green, right? So this is showing you a location. Green oftentimes is symbolic. The emerald color is symbolic of the North Pole and the Northern Lights. Now we zoom out and we see that we're looking at the firmament through glass, or through the window, and it says Return to Oz. This whole looking through the window, and then the firmament, the sky, the night sky, being right there behind it, it's symbolic of the sky being made of glass, or I believe it's made out of ice. Return to Oz. Return to Oz means strength. For those of you who don't know, it means very strong or powerful. Right? So we zoom out of the window and we meet Dorothy. This is the new version of Dorothy. You may recognize her as a grown-up in the movie The Craft. She was one of the witches in The Craft, which is interesting. This is the old Dorothy. We left her. She was passed out, and the movie kind of makes it seem like she was dreaming up Oz, or maybe it was all just a dream or whatnot, right? I never really like movies that end up just being a dream, personally. Because it basically nullifies the entire movie. If, in fact, dreams are just ridiculous, random synapses firing off, giving us random images and stuff. I don't believe so. That's why I call myself JayDreamerZ. I feel that there's an import to dreams. There's a reality to dreams. The mind, or the brain, may mix things up a bit, but the dream world is, to me, just as real as this world. So she's looking at her mirror. Over here, this is actually a mirror. And then through the mirror, she's looking through the window, or through the looking glass, at the firmament, at the sky above. And that's how we start this movie. Zooms in on the mirror, and then a door opens. Now, it's interesting that they say a door opens down here in the captions. I always check out movies with the captioning. A door opens as they're zooming into the sky, or to the mirror, which means that the door in the heavens, the stargate, the gate of the heavens, the gate of God, Babylon, etc., has opened up, right? This is going to be, usually you'll see like a transition from one world or from one paradigm to another in movies when glass breaks, or when somebody steps through the glass or goes through the mirror, right? So a door opens whenever we see this glass. Then we have Aunt Em. was a totally every character in this movie is like the Goodwill version of the characters in the original movie. So Aunt Em comes in. I don't like Aunt Em. I never have. I never will. And I'll show you why here in a bit. So Aunt Em comes in to check on Dorothy, and she says, "Can't you sleep?" This is another concept that they subtly throw into many movies, especially those that are fantastic or make reference to the plasma apocalypse. Not being able to sleep. When we get close to a transitional reset period, which I believe we're in right now. What's up, Charles Wilson? Good to see you. Many of us, many truth seekers, are starting to find it difficult to sleep. Our sleep cycle is being thrown off. And I believe that it's a sign and an omen for the world to come where you won't need to sleep because the atmosphere will be so electromagnetically energized that you'll always be charged. And the only reason to sleep really is to charge your body so that you can function. Now we have the uncle. He comes in and he's like, "Aunt Em?" They call her Aunt Em, right? So M oftentimes like representing Maru, Mother Mary, things of that nature. This Aunt Em is like the Black Madonna. But she's the aunt, which means that she's not the mom. She's not the dad. Dorothy is an orphan. She's an orphan in like the late 1800s, possibly early 1900s or something. And I have noticed so many main characters that are orphans in the movies. So many protagonists. It seems like almost all of them are orphans. 3-9. Hey, welcome back. Good to see you. 3-9. So this takes us to the orphan trains, children without homes. By the thousands upon thousands upon thousands, just random children all over the place that were ferried from the east coast of the United States over to the west coast. But they also had this happening in other parts of the world too, these orphan trains. This takes place during the exact time of The Wizard of Oz. They don't explain I'm not even sure that they explain this in the book, like what happened to Dorothy's parents, but I think that we can get an idea, right? Especially from her dreams and from her visitations to Oz and stuff. I believe that oftentimes the parents of these orphans were people of power, whether they be saints or witches or wizards or whatever. They were people that seemed to know more or to have more insight into the esoteric things, the deeper things of reality, basically. They had stronger spirits, you could say. It says between 1854 and 1929, over 250,000 orphans were put onto trains in the overcrowded East. Overcrowded? Really? It was overcrowded back in 18-something? Overcrowded East, sent to every state in the continental United States to find new homes. Some children were pre-assigned to homes. Many were lined up at the train stations for those interested in adopting or needed laborers, and were selected like a lottery. Right? It kind of has like a feel of the Hunger Games as well. But they were slaves, basically. They were treated as slaves. Oftentimes, they weren't often treated as family or anything like that. They put these kids to work. They ripped them away from their families. They ripped their families apart, sent their parents off to asylums, which we're going to talk about asylums here in a minute too. And they really ripped the children away from the parents during this time. This is what I believe is a reference to the season of Satan. Whenever that satanic evil energy takes precedence or takes charge of this world, while all of the energy is charging down into the heart of the earth, all the people on the top, on the surface where we live, who resonate with a negative frequency or an evil or a bad frequency, it's natural for them to seek out all of the remaining, or you could say the remnant of the good people, and round them up, kill them, torture them, separate them, humiliate them, and do everything that they can to get rid of any trace of, the old world or the old ways. You can see many examples like this on the internet where they just sold children. Look at the lady just hiding her face. Children for sale. That's Dorothy. She was a child for sale, essentially. And those kids, oftentimes, they grew up by themselves on farms, on huge tracts of land, to quote Monty Python, all by themselves. It's not like they could just go play with the neighborhood children or anything, They played with chickens. They played with animals. They were very creative and had to come up with ways to entertain themselves, or they were just put to work. and given busy work. Here's another example of like a storefront that says tiny babies alive. And it's got a stork out front holding a baby. These are places where you could go to just buy a kid, right? In the early 1900s, late 1800s, they had huge stores and stuff. Alive babies. Isn't that kind of weird? Isn't it kind of strange that they're selling them and advertising that they're alive? Incubator babies as well. Tiniest human babies, it says. And it says human babies as well. I think this is so strange and so weird, this particular time, right? To me, this just screams that this is immediately after some sort of reset that had happened. And they were trying to shuffle people about, confuse people, and control the narrative, essentially. Tiny human babies. Get your tiny human babies here. All right, so they developed all these little incubators, little baby holding stations. This one says baby incubators in the Berlin exhibition. Temperatures varying according to their age. They do not appear to be able to see or hear, but merely to exist. The babies don't appear to be able to see or hear, but they're just existing. And they are nourished by drops of milk dropped into their mouths. Something strange about this time. Something really weird, something suspicious going on with the 1800s, we'll say. All right, so her uncle is worried about her mental health because, you know, she woke up and immediately started talking about Oz. What is she, like 10 or something? You know, she's a child. She had a dream, so what? She's talking about Oz. She thinks it's real, so what? The uncle picks up this newspaper article. He goes over and checks it out. Now, this is a signature of the times, okay? This is one of the things that they did to people that remembered the old ways or the old world, right? They wanted to erase those memories, so they would actually promote electrical healing. Now, electricity can heal if used properly, but if used improperly, it can destroy. It can destroy your memories, and it can turn you into a zombie, basically. So he's thinking about sending her off to an insane asylum, essentially, that will perform electrical shock therapy on Dorothy Gale. They hook her up to these electrodes, and then they send electrical currents to the brain. This is a real advertisement from back in the day. It says, Geriatrics, helping older people enjoy life longer. So they put, you see this little lollipop in her mouth? They stick that in there so that when she's being electrocuted, she doesn't break her own teeth. Right. Longer life for people past 40. Here's another advertisement. Electricity, a natural cure. No more use for crutches or drugs. Take a treatment for free. Anytime they're offering you stuff for free that's medical in nature and it comes from the official government people, right? Like you may go to your local grocery store and you probably have seen signs all over the place that says, free flu shots. If, you know, free, just come and get them. Better beware. Now, they say it's been 6 months since the tornado. So this is 6 months after the first movie ended, right? So it's only 6 months. Dorothy's talking about Oz like it's a real place. And her Aunt Em says, I'm taking her to Cottonwood Falls tomorrow. Cottonwood Falls sounds like the name of an insane asylum. They try to give them these pretty, beautiful, artistic sounding place names, you know, but they're the worst places on earth. It's basically a torture jail for most people. Okay, mainstream academics, you know, will hold strong to no, they were really trying to help, and you know. There was people that were all by themselves, or you know, so many conditions that existed. No, they threw people into the insane asylums for any reason they felt like it. Mostly and usually because they just did not like the person, right? They didn't vibe with that person's energy, so they just got rid of them and tortured them and experimented on them legally. I want to see if she can be helped. Now, this is another thing. Beware of this in your local communities, wherever you are in the world, when the government or their institutions are trying to help you. This is for your benefit. We're trying to help you. We're trying to give you benefits. It's for your safety. This is them controlling you. They're not trying to help you or others. They're helping themselves. This is all part of a greater plan to get rid of anybody that might have some sort of connection, whether it be mentally or spiritually or otherwise, to something greater and grander and what we would consider to be fictitious in the world today, which is the world that once was and the world to come. All she ever talks about is some place that just doesn't exist. That's all I ever talk about. That's all many people are starting to talk about is phantom islands, alternative history, fringe conspiracies, cosmologies, and things of that nature. The old ways are returning. People all across the world don't even know about this particular land, this island. This is basically Oz at the North Pole, when it was common knowledge across the world during times like the Middle Ages, or the Dark Ages, I'll say. And this is what they do. When you talk about places that don't exist, they want to electrocute your brain. They want to wipe the memories away. They want to get rid of any memory of this place. Why? That's not the cure, right? Shouldn't education be the cure? Shouldn't, like, you know, having a discussion or a debate or, you know, something about it, shouldn't that be the first step before, like, strapping people down to a gurney and shocking the crap out of their brain? These places did exist. These were written and drawn on map after map after map during the Middle Ages and across many parts of antiquity. Okay, you can see them over here at the top of the map at the North Pole, and I'm only pointing out Hyperborea. I believe this is Hyperborea, Atlantis, and the Garden of Eden, etc. There are many phantom islands, though. This one just happens to be my favorite, and you know, it's the navel of the earth, the place, the greatest place of power. Here's another example. Here you can see landmass up here at the top. And there are countless examples of this phantom land that just doesn't exist in the world that we live in today. Is it that it doesn't exist, or that it's just no longer on the maps? So if we don't see it on a modern day map, which was created by modern cartographers that were instructed by their modern gatekeeping governments and whatnot, then it just doesn't exist. I should just dismiss it and forget about it, right? Well, what about the questions that arise? Like, why is this place drawn so similarly on so many different examples of so many different maps? This one's a zoomed in view. You can see this one right here is what is this one? This is up towards like Greenland and Norway and stuff like that. So this up here is just a portion. This is the Euphrates River at the North Pole, okay, on the Phantom Island, or Terra Incognita. Here's another version where you can see up here, and it says Incognita right up there at the top. You see that? Let me zoom in just a little bit here. See how it says Incognita? That means hidden. It's a hidden land. Why is it hidden? Well, because there's a differential between the pressure and the temperatures up there at the North Pole, where all of that inner Earth warm air comes up and meets all the cold air from the Arctic, and it creates a fog bank all the way around this island. So the fog is the island is surrounded in fog, and it's basically invisible to many people and difficult to find. Here's the other one. At the top, you'll also notice the word septentrion. Let me see if I can get in on that. Look at this. Oceanus Hyperboreus. That's the Hyperborean Ocean. Up here at the very top, septentrion. I've been using that word a lot in many of my recent presentations. Okay? It means the 7 trees, or the 7 plasma volcanoes that erupt into their terrestrial beams that shoot up into the sky beams, up there surrounding the Garden of Eden. Here's another one. You can see a piece of it up here at the top of this map, which has been included. Here's another one. On the insert of this map, they show you at the very top up here. Here is Hyperborea. Here is the Garden of Eden at the very top. Here's Tartaria, Pars, which means like land. Let's see. Have you ever seen like these little circus tents? See like these ones behind me? Those are Tartarian. Okay, those are the style of tents that the Tartarians had. Here's another map, a bit more recent. Zoom in on the top up here. Let's see if you can check it out. Terra Polaris Pars. That means land of the pole. The pole land. North Pole, not Poland, but the North Pole. North Pole land, basically. Here's another one where they just straight up wrote Hyperborea right there in the middle of it at the North Pole. Here's another example. This one's just from a thumbnail that I took. Hyperborea right there at the top of the map. And then, of course, you have Mercator's. You know, it's probably my favorite one. This is a map of Oz. No, wait a minute. Let's go back. This is a map of the land at the North Pole. Okay. Who is that? Mr. Mission Control? Hey, welcome to my channel. Thanks for subscribing. This is Oz. Notice, Oz is surrounded by an impassable desert, also called the Deadly Desert, the Great Sandy Waste, and the Shifting Sands, right? In Oz, this is all desert, right? And it has 4 lands, or 4 countries, Oz in the middle. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this real quick. Emerald City, I should say, in the middle. The whole land is Oz, right? I believe. You have Emerald City, that's Mount Meru. Okay, that's the Disney castle. That's all that stuff. And it's right there, smack dab, right in the middle of Oz. We've got Munchkin Country. So one of these quadrants has little tiny people. Let's go back to my other map, the actual real one, right? This quadrant right down here, right? This one has pygmies, little tiny people, right there. Let's go back to the Oz map. Let's see, there's the Dominion of the Gnome King. He's going to make his appearance up here as well in the movie. All right. Now, Aunt Tim's sitting down with little Dorothy. And Aunt Tim's like, you remember what we talked about? You remember what we spoke about? And she says not to talk about Oz, right? Because it's just my imagination. They're telling her, you don't talk about that crap. Okay, this applies to so many things today where so many people are waking up during like this time whenever the world's going nuts. People are becoming their very chakras, energies, spirits, souls are being amplified during this time. So good people are also being amplified. The evil people are just going nuts and crazy and becoming worse and worse, but the good people are increasing in knowledge all of the time, putting our puzzle pieces together. Tapping into mysteries and wonders and memories, ancient memories. We're remembering the past, the ancient past, or what I call ancient oblivion. So we're told, don't talk about it, right? Don't talk about these things. Don't speak on them. And she says, I know you don't want to go to the doctors. So she's basically like, stop talking about Oz, or, you're going to go to the doctors or whatever. Going to the doctors is nothing to do with her being healed, but fixing it so that it's easier for Aunt M, because Aunt M doesn't want to deal with whatever type of backlash might happen, because this girl's talking about deeper things in life. Okay. Now they get to the doctor. I use that word loosely. And Dorothy's explaining Oz. She says that the Tin Woodsman used to be made out of flesh, but then he cut off his leg and he had a tin leg made. But then a witch enchanted his axe, and he kept on cutting off all of his other body parts until he was all made of tin. Every time he hacked off one of his own limbs because he was possessed by the witch, it was replaced with metal. He became a metal man, right? We have many examples of this. This is basically happening in the world that we live in today. This is from Doctor Who, right? You've got many different examples of metal men as the bad guys, or robots taking over, or people in transhumanism, and people basically wanting to become robots themselves. Then she goes on to talk about the lion, a cowardly lion, and he could talk too, right? So talking animals, like the scarecrow and the Tin Man. Yes, all of the animals in Oz can talk. So all of the animals in Hyperborea and around these places of power around the world, they can talk. Do they open their mouth and actually make words with their tongue and their lips how we do? No, they speak using telepathy. Whenever you live in a place of power like Hyperborea, then it amplifies your very energies, your soul, your chakra, your synapses and everything, and you're working at full capacity. So you're able to tune in to the energies of others. You're able to feel their emotions, their intentions, their desires, their wants, their fears, whatever it may be. That is telepathy. And that was the original language of this world before the energy dissipated, retracted, went back down into the earth. And then we lose that energy, or that energetic amplification of our spirit. And we lose the, brain capacity, brain function, everything dwindles. Okay. It's a fallen state, basically. He says, I think I know just the thing. This is how doctors talk to everybody, not just children. In today, okay, they talk like this. They're so patronizing. This is my personal experience, okay, but I don't like them. I don't like doctors at all. They're so patronizing. I think I know just the thing. This electrical marvel will make it possible for you to sleep again. very interested in putting her back to sleep and her getting back to sleep. She's waking up. That's the problem. In a world full of sleepwalkers, it's the lucid dreamers, the ones who are waking up and taking control of the dream, that pose a problem to all of the others who are trying to take advantage of all the sleepwalkers and lemmings and whatever. And it will also get rid of all those bad waking dreams. You see how he just dismisses all of this? He doesn't have a logical conversation about it, look into it, research it whatsoever. It's just not a part of the norm, which is established by those who are way up above us. They're known as the hidden hand. They write the narratives. They write the songs. They tell the stories. They tell you your history and what the present is and what is important and what's valuable and what's not, right? It'll get rid of all those bad waking dreams. Go back to sleep, Dorothy. But not so that she can dream of Oz. Just go back to sleep. Go back to your farm. Do your slave work. Take care of and feed the pigs. You know, help Aunt Em or whatever she's supposed to do as an orphan slave in the 1800s. And it will also get rid of all those bad waking dreams that you've been telling me about. Now, Aunt Em leaves her at this insane asylum where the creepy steward lady takes her to her quarters, to her room. Look at this room. It's a jail. It's a cement, cold room just with a wall and a bed. And that's pretty much it. A window. Thunder crashes. Now, I always point this out. We always start things off with windows breaking or glass shattering or walking through the glass, like I said, or things like the storm symbolism. This is the world storm, the time storm, the plasma apocalypse that throws us back into the Stone Age and actually creates stone. This is the time whenever stone is created. Thunder crashes, right? So she looks up, she sees the electricity outside. There's a huge storm that's on the way. This is symbolic of the plasma apocalypse, the world storm, the great tempest. So she sits down. There's a little thing over here that's a jack-o'-lantern. So this is close to Halloween or All Hallows Eve, the time when the dead rise. Okay, so it's also symbolic. You have the time of the dead rising, the world storm, the symbolism. We're building context for a deeper message here, which is really breadcrumbs that are given to us so that we can find our way back home. Are they being given to us purposefully by like Hollywood or Disney or whatever? I don't know. But what I do know is my soul picks up these breadcrumbs as I continue to go, and I find my way home. So she sits there all alone in this psychiatric crazy house listening to screams all through the night, and then the evil lady dressed in black comes to get her, the Black Witch, the Black Madonna. She comes with these two guys. They bring out this gurney, and then they start strapping her down to the gurney. This is the Wizard of Oz. I told you it's dark. She says, "Why do you have to tie me down?" Right? Now, this is conditioning as well, right? There's two things happening right now. One, she's a good person, right? Good people with good energy, it's in our nature to like have a discussion and talk things out or whatever. Bad people don't want to talk about it. They just want to do. They just want to control. They want to manipulate. So her good nature is getting in the way of what she should be doing, which is fighting them and getting them off and running away and leaving, right? Why do you have to tie me down? And she's also trying to be logical about things, right? Oftentimes, good people, we project our goodness onto the evil people in the world. Okay, we give them way too much credit, right? It's really just us projecting our goodness onto others because we expect others to be good as well. Why do you have to tie me down? They start strapping her down, and then they lie and say, so that you don't fall off. This is what happens at hospitals all the time, okay? You ask a legitimate, logical question, and they patronize, they dismiss, they minimize, right? They ignore your question completely, and they talk to you like a child, and they lie all the time. They straight up lie, okay? It's so that you don't fall off. It's not so she doesn't fall off. It's so that she doesn't escape, right? So whenever she realizes she's in danger and they're about to erase her brain, she won't try to get away, right? Because she's about to be tortured. I came all the way from the farm in the buggy and I didn't fall off, right? So now she's like trying to reason with evil people. Not wise. It's unwise to do so, okay? Trying to reason with someone that you know to be evil based on their actions is an unwise thing, and it would behoove us, it would be wise for us, and we would continue in wisdom to recognize, simply recognize the energy that we're dealing with whenever, whenever we're dealing with relationships with others, so that we don't waste our energy on a lost cause, like, and also so that we don't end up through our kindness, our over kindness, helping them by just being complacent and allowing them to do their thing because we don't believe they would do anything wrong, because we wouldn't do anything wrong, So she makes a really good point. Takes her, they take her into the doctor. He says, "Hello, Dorothy." This is how doctors always are when they first walk into the room. They're trying to be Mr. Rogers. Every doctor I've ever seen, ever, even as a grown adult, they come in and they put on this big smiley face. I feel like they should just like take off their pair of shoes and put on their loafers and maybe put on a sweater and, "Hello there, JayDreamerZ. Hi, what seems to be bothering you today, huh? You want to tell me about it?" They're like so patronizing. I hate it. They're trying to get in good with you from the beginning. They're trying to develop rapport with you, right? They're also testing you to see if you're going to go along with their good-natured schemes or whatever, right? They're conditioning you, basically. "Hello, Dorothy. How are you today?" As he's putting an electrode on her head. "I wish I wasn't tied down," she says. That's a kind person's way of saying, "Get this shit the fuck off me. Get this off me now. I don't like this. I don't trust you. Something's wrong." But she can't say that. She's too good. It's her good nature on the inside to just continue to try to reason with them. Don't try to do yourself a favor. Don't reason with evil. Okay? It's evil for a reason. Okay? It has its own reasons. And it is fully convinced in its mind that it's good. So he says, "Ha ha ha, nothing to worry about. I'm just going to electrocute the frickin' crap out of you." Right? Nothing to worry. They always say there's nothing to worry about. Any side effects? Oh no, there's minimum. No, there's nothing. Everything's gonna be fine. They will tell you this till they're blue in the face. Okay? In reality, you should have done research before going and just allowing yourself to be tied down and put into this situation where you're not allowed to leave the hospital, or they're gonna call the police, or you know what I mean? Like stuff like that has actually happened to me. So they put on these electrodes on her ears. And they're getting ready to erase her memory, to make her a zombie. But then the plasma apocalypse intervenes. Thunder crashes, lightning strikes the insane asylum, and the lights go out. This is another thing that's going to happen. It will happen, and it has happened in the past. There will be darkness, okay? No man-made lights will work during this time. I highly recommend you grab yourself some glow sticks, and put them in a place where you can easily access them. Now, it's all symbolic, right? So she's in the movie, she can have a flashlight. Now the evil chick's like, "So you're trying to get away, huh?" And this is this other girl. She's kind of like a ghost, actually. I don't think she's really there. The movie doesn't really do a good job of explaining who this other child is, but they have children in this insane asylum that they're hooking up to torture devices. And this girl, you'll see her at the end of the movie, okay? She's trying to help Dorothy out to escape, which is basically Alice. Okay, so this is basically Alice and Dorothy. This is Alice basically from The Wizard of Oz. I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying it basically is to me. So Alice grabs Dorothy, they take off together. Alice has been through this, she knows the drill, and she's like, "Get out of here. Get out of the insane asylum." Now, this is the microcosmic version of our entire world. Get out of the insane asylum. Right now, I'm convinced, okay, for the most part, the world is an insane asylum at the moment. I'm not saying the world doesn't have its beauty, like just the world part of it, but the people have all turned crazy. They have lost their minds, okay? Which is just a huge omen that the apocalypse is on the way. It's a great cleansing, okay? And that's a good thing. So the storm starts. This is also how the movie Labyrinth began. So many different movies. What was it? The Mist. There's so many movies we've covered that begin with a storm. Friday the 13th, right? Anyway, so they leave the insane asylum. The symbolic version of Alice takes her down to this muddy hill where there's like a river at the bottom that all of a sudden just came out of nowhere, and they slip down on the mud. They fall down into the water, the rushing water, and then she grabs onto some flotsam and she just floats off into what is now an ocean, right? This is supposed to be like the Midwest, Kansas, remember? Now she's in a freaking ocean, right? So this is also symbolic of the flood. This is no ordinary storm that she's going through. This is the plasma apocalypse. The plasma apocalypse creates the ocean water. It also removes the ocean water, which is why Oz has a desert around it instead of the Arctic Ocean. They also stick the moon in there just to let you know, like, the location. There's the real moon, and then there's the projection in the sky. The real moon is directly above Oz. Now, her little pet chicken that she's been talking to this whole time, named Belina, she's on this piece of flotsam with Dorothy, and she starts talking to her. The chicken says, well, who else? Or whatever, chicken voice, right? Who else is it? The chicken all of a sudden can talk, right? And she says, where did the rest of the water go? I'll tell you, it got sucked up in the plasma apocalypse. When the atmosphere depressurizes, all that fluid that we call atmosphere goes up and out, and it's immediately replaced by a strong or a stronger force of buoyancy, which means things float. They lose their weight. They become less dense. Water will float right up, straight up into the sky, rising higher and higher and higher, and much of it will get sucked up and out of the drain, or the Stargate, or Kronos' mouth, up there at the inverted dome that has a hole in the very top of it whenever it blows open and the sky rips open. So they're on the edge of Oz now. That desert I pointed out, the impassable desert, the deadly desert, that's this right here. She said, where did the rest of the water go? We just went over that. Where did Kansas go? Right? Well, Kansas went bye-bye. Right? Kansas is still there, like, as far as this is not some other realm. Okay? She's still on Earth. It's just that she just is a survivor. She's a Nemo. She went through the apocalypse. Nemo are those who are left over. So if you ever hear the name Nemo, it doesn't essentially mean nobody. If you do an etymological study on it, it implies nobody, but that's not what it originally meant. It's from Nem, and then Nemu, or Nemo, and it means of the leftovers, basically, or of the survivors. Where did Kansas go? Kansas is still there. She's just, the Earth looks different now. She has transitioned from the modern world into the post-apocalyptic world, the time of magic, whenever there's, amplified electricity all throughout the atmosphere and the Earth. So she looks over, she can see where the deadly desert meets Hyperborea, aka Oz. She says, if this is the land of Oz, then this is the deadly desert, right? Why is that desert deadly all the way around the North Pole, or the Arctic circle, or whatever? Up there in the Arctic, it acts as a battery. Okay, there's different mountains and stuff that produce positive and negative energy, and there's electricity running all throughout these places. So this entire desert should be, if this is correct, an electrical desert, an electrically amplified desert that probably is able to attract much of that atmospheric electricity that's now amplified, drawing in thunderbolts and stuff, so it'd be very dangerous to cross this desert. If this is true, I would also expect there to be massive fulgurites. Fulgurites are what lightning creates when it strikes, like, the beach sand or whatever, and they can stick right up out of the ground. It looks much like the desert on Saturn in Betelgeuse, basically. So this surrounds Oz. Here it is again. You can see the deadly desert. Now at the top up here, it says there's these different kingdoms, right? These are the Southlands. This is where you all live today, okay? This one was of particular interest. This is called the Kingdom of Nine. Nine, in the ancient languages of Phoenician and Paleo-Hebrew, is a glyph, which is a circle with an X right through it, right? That's the tet, right? So anything that starts with those letters, tet, right, or tot, or there's different pronunciations, it's a reference. It harkens back to this land at the middle of the world, the breadbasket of the world, paradise, the Garden of Eden, and there is a serpent in that basket. This is the etymology of the actual glyph that's known as the number 9 in ancient Phoenician, and the letter as well. Okay, here it is again. This whole island is the tet. It is the 9. It represents that glyph. All right, so she grabs her chicken. She starts heading off to explore to find out where she is. Now let's talk about this chicken. All right, I've talked about the chicken many different times. Remember when we broke down Moana and some other things that had chicken references to? Back to the Future. We broke down all 3 Back to the Futures. The chicken comes up time and time. There's certain symbols. There's certain iconic things that are shown time and time again. Like they just have to be in the movies. The chicken is one of those things. Let's take a look at some different examples and see how the chicken is related to this esoteric past. Disney's Chicken Little, the sky is falling, right? So the chicken is related to the sky falling, and the sky will fall too. Hey Hey, which, by the way, is actually pronounced Hey Hey, deep. It's a guttural. That ch sound, that's an Americanized cowboy version way of saying ch, way down here in the back, in the bottom of the throat, okay? It's like you're hawking a loogie. This is Hey Hey, which is basically ch-ch, or keke, or kaka, or kiki, or however you want to pronounce it, okay? The vowels don't matter that much. Roosters are chickens, just so you know. So if you see roosters, that's still chicken symbolism. And then, of course, Moana, this chicken is tied to exploring new lands, undiscovered lands and undiscovered places, titans, ancient gods, things of myth and legend. Back to the Future, nobody calls me a chicken. This guy has to go 88 miles an hour in order to travel to the future or the past. That's just an apocalyptic event. It's symbolic of going through the plasma apocalypse, where you end up so far into the future that you're basically in the past. And then he does 88, right? 88 miles an hour. Well, this is the first letter of ch, or chicken, or all of those things. It's chet, or you could say chet. It's the 8th letter in the Hebrew alphabet. So 2 of these together makes the sound kaka, or cha-cha, or chaka, or kacha, or however you want to pronounce it. And it's 88 together, right? So that's the whole secret behind the 88 to Back to the Future, okay? It's going beyond the 2 chets. Chet, not only did it mean 8, or it was the 8th number, but it meant an outdoor boundary. Here you can see different versions as it evolved or, you know, changed over time. But eventually it was basically like these poles, these pillars. And it was, the pictogram meant a wall, an outdoor divider, something that was a marker outside that marked a boundary. 2 of those together were the ancient pillars of Hercules, or Heracles, where if you go beyond those, you're going to venture into unknown territory, into other lands, other worlds. Now, originally it was actually drawn like this. So this would be the top portion is the firmament, the bottom portion is the surface world where we live, and then you have these 3 beams, the anode, the cathode, and then the light of the world coming up out of Mount Meru right there in the middle. Okay, it meant outdoor boundary, marker. Here's some more versions of it. You can see how it evolved or changed over time. You can see sort of an H shape right there too. Now, people who came from the Pillars of Hercules, right? People that left that place, the Garden of Eden, Hyperborea, and then they became nomadic in nature. They were when the Southlanders, which is all of us, okay, today, who were basically survivors that just stayed in the Southlands and they became accustomed to things and they survived out there, right? When the people from the north ventured southward, they were seen as cuckoo, or kaka, or kaka, crazy, right? This is why we have these types of words. This is why, you know, the chicken symbolism, running away, right? The chicken, people who are chickens run away or whatever. That's because that's what the Atlanteans did. That's what the Hyperboreans did. That's what the people in Eden did. They ran away. They ran away from their homeland or whatever. They're runaways, basically. They're lost tribes. Cuckoo is another one, right? Cuckoo, there it is again, cuckoo. For cocoa. Cocoa is something I believe actually grows in Hyperborea. It's where we get chocolate and stuff from. But it only grows in like tropical areas, right? And I believe that these particular like beans or whatever they are, that there's certain plants that grow in that region, and these cocoa beans I believe are one of those. And that's why they're called cocoa, because that's where they're from. There's the cuckoo bird, right? The bird's obviously not crazy. Does this bird right here look like a cuckoo bird, which is this? Or does the Cocoa Puffs bird look more like a freaking chicken? Right? He looks more like a chicken to me. I don't know. That's up to you. It does not look like a cuckoo bird to me, though. Okay? This one right here reminds me of the chicken, the minstrel from, what was it? The Disney version of Robin Hood. Classic. I love that one. Here's the Pillars of Hercules, right? You can see it makes an H or whatever, right? Hercules in the middle Hercules did hold up the world for a moment, according to the legends. It was part of one of his labors. He had to replace Atlas. So Atlas originally was between the pillars of Hercules, holding up the sky, not the earth, but a portion of the earth that we call the firmament, the sky, specifically the inverted dome that is directly above him, which is directly above Mount Meru, which is the real moon. So here it is again. You can see here are the pillars. It's also the 101 symbolism. So one pillar, then you have the circular island at the middle, or you could look at this as being the sky and the eye in the sky, either way, and then the anode and the cathode, and then the circle in the middle. It's 101. This is the place where everything begins, which is why classes in college begin with 101 instead of something more simple. All right, so now she continues her journey. She sees her old house. So this is the house that landed on the Wicked Witch of the East, right? And it's still there. Everything's very overgrown. There's no more munchkins anywhere. Something's wrong. Something's off, right? And she knows. She's like, this is our old house. She looks at the yellow brick road, and it's all messed up. It's all torn apart, right? And we have discussed the yellow brick road and how the sun actually will create a yellow brick road as it gets hotter and hotter. So she starts to follow this broken, messed up yellow brick road, and she says, it leads to Emerald City. The yellow brick road will lead you to Emerald City. How do you know where to go after the apocalypse, right? There's different things that you can take cues from the movies and from other things too to be able to know where to go. You're not going to be able to find direction easily after the world's gone through an electromagnetic polarity shift. Sarah! Welcome to my channel, Sarah. Good to see you. But you can look for the yellow brick road. You can also look for the sign, big old beam of light shooting up into the heavens. Now, here's some examples of how this will happen. This is the yellow brick road to Atlantis. This is what it's affectionately known as. This is at the bottom of the ocean. If you take a good look at this, it's like brick, right? On the bottom of the ocean. It's just all brick and stuff. There's other versions of this too. You know, the Bimini Road is probably more popular, but this one right here is naturally made, right? It's just cracked. It's mud that's been cracked. It looks like it's dried or been heated and then covered over in water, right? Well, what's powerful enough to heat this type of stuff? The sun is powerful enough to create these yellow bricks in things like the bottom of the ocean water. Remember, the oceans will be removed, right? But the sun's if the sun does heat up, it has the potential to create the yellow brick road as it spirals inwards towards the North Pole during the next polarity shift. All right, cool. Hold on. Let me just make sure we're streaming still. Everything's good? I got an error from YouTube. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Hey, am I glitching out to you guys or anything? I'm going to refresh the video just to double check. I want to make sure everything's good. Connect streaming software to go live. Ooh, I don't know. Let me know if we're good. Any issues in the chat? Let me know if there's any issues with the presentation. It does say excellent connection, so I'm going to assume everything's okay and we'll continue on. Chloe, thank you for the thumbs up and letting me know. I appreciate it. Oh, I do have 101,000 subs. You're right. Galaxy Strangers paying attention to the details. Very nice. I love that. Okay. All right. It was lagging for a second. All right, cool. I got it. Thanks a lot, everybody, for letting me know. Let's continue on. The path to Atlantis, okay, will be paved. The road will be paved for you. All right. Now we see this rock. The rock starts developing this face. So in the movie, the rocks can talk. Okay. Rocks have the ability to retain information and energy, basically. Okay. So throughout the movie, all these rocks, they can morph, they can talk to one another. This rock says they have discovered the yellow brick road. Now, can the rocks speak? Well, in the Bible, there's a verse that says the children were, trying to speak with Jesus, and the adults were like, oh, don't talk to him. The grown-ups are talking, or whatever. I'm paraphrasing. But Jesus looks at him and says, if these were to be silent, the very stones would cry out. The very rocks would share information and tell on you, basically. They would speak. They hold witness. They bear witness to the events because they're collecting all that resonant frequency that's in the atmosphere, which we call action or history or whatever. What else we got here? So this is from the Bible, the book of Luke, chapter 19. It says, when he came near to the place where the road goes down the Mount of Olives, that's Mount Meru, okay? Has an olive tree that shoots up and little balls of plasma and stuff. When Jesus came near to the place where the road goes, the road, so that's the yellow brick road, basically, where the road goes down the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for the miracles they had seen. So they're praising Jesus and everything. And then some of the Pharisees, the pretend good people, the people that pretend to be good, but they're really just evil on the inside. They say to Jesus, "Teacher, rebuke your disciples." And he says, "If they keep quiet, the very stones will cry out." This also reminds me of so many other movies where there's talking rocks, talking rock people, rock creatures, rock giants, stone creatures and stuff that are animated, that they're animate, right? This I resonate with this. I vibe with this. That the stones can talk. Also, that the stones used to be alive. That the rocks used to be alive. That it's organic material that petrified in place and became frozen for a time. So this is from the movie The Labyrinth, where they say, "This is not the way. Go back while you still can. Beware. Beware." False alarms. Usually when you're on the right path. Then you start hearing these voices telling you, "Oh, that's not the right one. That's not real," right? You're not on the right path. That's fiction. That's make-believe. The rock biter, right? A giant, basically, that's turned into stone. Stone giants, stone titans. The titans that became stone, that became mountains. The legends of the giants, trolls and other, gigantic creatures that petrified and turned into statues. We're going to see that in the movie too. Now, she just took the yellow brick road. Literally 2 seconds later, or actually 2 seconds later in the movie, she's in Oz. Remember how long it took her to get to Oz in the first movie? I just think that's hilarious. She just hops on the yellow brick road. The whole way to Oz took 2 hours at least in the movie, in the first one. 2 seconds later, she's in Oz. Boom, here we are, no problem. She says, "Well, Bellina, that was the Emerald City. So this is Atlantis. This is Hyperborea. This is the Garden of Eden. This is many different forms of paradise throughout various cultures. And it's been destroyed. Okay? It will be rebuilt. It will be remade. But when you first get there, you're probably going to see a lot of ruins and stuff too." Now, she starts looking around and she sees these peculiar statues that look very lifelike. She says, "They've all been turned into stone. Instant petrification of biological life forms." This is something that I believe is very feasible and likely. This is, like I said, it's the Stone Age, that time storm, right? That plasma that comes down, ionized hydrogen comes down, and it has the ability to change your chemical and electrical bonds, which means it has the ability to loosen or strengthen those bonds depending upon the circumstances. If it strengthens those bonds, you could turn into solidified rock, basically. Your body has all sorts of rock in it anyways, crystals and rocks and all that stuff. You're made of earth. You can easily be changed back into earth. Okay, it's not difficult. If you don't believe me, take a look for a prime example at the petrified forests that exist around the world. I'm familiar with this one. This is my local one that's nearby. I mean, there's ones actually closer than Arizona, which is where this one is. I did a whole documentary where I went out to the petrified forest, to Meteor Crater, and to the Grand Canyon. And we took a close look at these, boots on the ground style. But these were organic life forms, trees that instantly petrified. Okay, they try to say, "Oh no, the mud washed over all the mud. There's always a mudslide." Just random mudslides all over the place back in antiquity, and it just covered these things. Do you see any mud covering this tree? Or this tree? Which is now turned into like precious stones? How about this tree? Which is sectioned off perfectly after it turned into stone and toppled over and broke. Okay? This was not buried in mud, and it's a mudslide, and mud just creates everything. Mud creates fossils, and mud creates petrified trees, and it's all mud and stuff. Look, this one's still growing up out of the ground. This one, I believe, is actually here in Colorado, in a place called Fluorescent. Here's some more examples where you can see they're not buried in mud. There might be some dirt or whatever there, but for the most part, I've visited these petrified forests, and they're just all laying on the surface. They're on the top. I don't see a lot of like partially, trees sticking out or whatever. I see a lot of just debris. That shows me that these things were petrified by a very powerful force and then knocked over by a very powerful wind, right? And you can see this. They actually, when the trees petrify, they naturally have sections like that, like many different trees. Palm trees, you can actually see those sections, okay? But whenever the trees petrify and then they break off, they tend to break off at those weak points, which are those sections. Here are some petrified trees that are growing out of the ground. Where's all the mud? I don't see any. Beware the wheelers. So they see that there's these weird creatures. I will tell you, like, this is a very B movie, like poorly done, low budget style, you know, for such a name brand movie. For me, the wheelers represent plasmoids. Okay, I mean this is a wheeler up here. Okay, it's an amalgam. It's a cross between lots of different types of symbolism. Hey, Symmatrix, what's up, Symmatrix? Welcome to my channel. Good to see you. I'm sorry if we have any glitches or anything. It does say that we're having some internet issues, but I'm just going to continue on and hope for the best. So for me, these are the wheelers are talking about the wheels within wheels, Ezekiel's wheels, basically plasmoids, plasma balls. Now you see right behind this wheeler, he also represents like the killer clowns from outer space in his makeup. He also represents, you know, phantazoids because he has this weird mask and stuff. But look at the pillar behind him. It's a broken pillar. It's a fallen pillar, right? You can see that right behind. And he's also the clown. So these wheelers, they just laugh uncontrollably, and they're trying to kill people. They're a variant or a version of the killer clowns from outer space, right? I had a guest on my channel, Paul Stubbs. Is it Stubbs? I forgot. Paul Stubbs. Anyway, so Paul wrote this book called The Nephilim Look Like Clowns, right? And if you haven't seen that chat that him and I had, check it out. It's in my podcast playlist. But anyways, you can see he represents that, right? Now, let's take a look at this fallen pillar symbolism. You see the pillar directly behind him, right? This is symbolic within Freemasonry. We have the two pillars, which are anode and cathode, but one of them retracts, okay? This is one of them goes down, one of them dies, or it sacrifices itself, or however people want to tell the story, okay? And people mourn for that pillar, for that god that died and retracted and went back into the earth, right? It's just the beam of light that shot up out of that particular anode or cathode as it weakened, and the other one grew in strength, which happens in, you know, electrolytic cells and galvanic cells and things of that nature in battery systems, okay? So we have the broken pillar. We also saw this when we broke down Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. There was also some broken pillar references there too. And then he goes up, she's hiding behind the wall. He says the Gnome King doesn't allow chickens anywhere in Oz. Now that's peculiar. They hate chickens. Chickens, these evil killer clowns, which represent, like, you know, many different things, but one of the things are the space beings, space travelers that come down and basically take over the world, okay? They don't like chickens. Well, it's not chickens, the animal. It's not birds of any kind. It's humans that are from between the pillars of Hercules. The on. On is a suffix that just means of the, right? Of the pillars of Hercules, basically. So she says, who's the Gnome King? And why is gnome spelled like that? You know what I mean? They could easily have just put a G on there. There's supposed to be a silent G at the beginning. Red Hatter! Hey, good to see you, Red Hatter. High five. Welcome to my channel, Red Hatter 99. Now, this is how gnome is typically spelled, with a G at the beginning. Let's take a look at it. It means and comes from the Proto-Indo-European root word gno, which means to know. This is where gnosis comes in. Gnosticism, right? Knowledge and all these things, right? So it's the people that know, the people that have information, the people that think, the people that have access to information. They want to keep that information from you. So they hate the chickens or those from the double chet, right? The 88. Guaranteed to work perfectly for 1,000 years. Now she runs into this robot infantryman, and we're going to learn more about him in just a second. It's interesting. It says guaranteed, she's reading on this robot, guaranteed to work perfectly for 1,000 years. Why 1,000 years? Because 1,000 years is the general term for a long length of time from apocalyptic cycle to apocalyptic cycle. That's an age. That is an eon. There will be an inverted dome up above that glows red, a part of the firmament, and that's known as the aegis. As long as that is there, that's the age. That's where age comes from, is the aegis or the aegis, however you want to say it. He says, I do not know. Suddenly, everything living began to turn to stone. This is the Stone Age. This is the age when things become petrified and turn into stone, including mud and debris and muck that just float up high into the atmosphere where there's extremely powerful electrical charges all over the place. They strike these blobs, these masses of debris and dirt and mud and stuff, and they petrify those. And those become boulders, random boulders that are just fall back down and land in strange places where they have no earthly business being. Now, he's getting into a fight with one of these wheeler dudes. You can see the makeup on the face, the white tint, right? These represent like the white devils that fall from the sky, the killer clowns, the Nephilim, etc. There's only one person that knows where the Scarecrow is. Now she's looking for the Scarecrow because he sort of inherited Oz. He became he was put in charge when the wizard left and when Dorothy left. Only one person who knows where he is. Now, you look around, you can see all of the debris. You can tell that, you know, the place has been destroyed. So they go to this witch, right? This lady right here. She says, I believe I'll lock you in the tower for a few years until your head is ready. So she doesn't have her own head. She uses other people's heads. She's basically a shapeshifter in that manner. Then I'll take it. And then Dorothy says, you will not take my head. And then she goes over to try to, like, you know, grab a new head or whatever. And she kind of has like chicken looking feathers going on there too, right? So she's got all these different heads. This kind of reminded me of these guys. Damn, what are their names? So there's legendary tribes of mutant humans, not just one instance or one-off instances, but entire tribes of mutated humans that did exist, and people saw them across the world in antiquity. They're written about, you know, in ancient official historic records, even those that are put forth by academics, and they're discussed by ancient adventurers, explorers, travelogues, and the like. All of these mutated tribes, right? Hundreds and hundreds of these exact same, oh, blemmies. Did somebody get that in the chat? No. Blemmies. Chloe got it. I see you, Chloe. But yeah, these are the blemmies. They're headless, right? The headless horseman, all the headless symbolism, off with your head, losing your head. Maybe it has something to do with radioactivity, right? Now, my personal theory on the blemmy so far, all of these can be explained, right? These are genetic mutations that happen within the body, right? And I've gone over almost all of these so far. But the blemmy, for me, I feel like that's the hunchback or something. When the head sinks down so low or whatever, and the people's back goes up way high, so it looks like your head or your face is like in the middle. I'm not sure. I'm not 100%, but I have seen pictures of blemmies where they look like hunchbacks. This also is reminiscent of the Red Queen, or the Queen of Hearts, who says off with her heads, right? She represents red, which is the red spectrum, the red plasma that comes down, which is radioactive in nature. Now, she's locked in the tower. She goes to the window once more, and she sees this. There's a circle with the cross in the middle. It's the Tet, right? It's giving her hope. So she walks over to the window. She looks off in the distance, and she says, oh, there's the Gnome King's mountain. That's where the Scarecrow is, right? Now, the ultimate Scarecrow, the image that is not a human but looks like a human, is that plasma that shoots up and it creates a stick figure in the sky, and people have made glyphs on it and petroglyphs and stuff across time, and it scares away the evil, basically, right? It's the quintessential Scarecrow. Now, the mountain, you'll notice, is a split mountain. If you take a good close look at this mountain, you'll notice that it's split right down the middle, right? That's symbolic of Mount Meru. Mount Meru is known as the split mountain, or at least that's how I refer to it quite often, because it is split in the middle. It even talks about the Mount of Olives splitting in the middle and Jesus appearing on top of it and stuff. Oftentimes, it's symbolically represented by a wolf, right? This is where the whole, it's like the head of a wolf. I know this one doesn't, you know, perfectly look like it or whatever, but oftentimes it does. There's like a wolf mountain or whatever, and the wolf is looking up, and it's got like its, you know, its mouth open. That's the split mountain, and it's howling up at the moon, the real moon, which is the inverted dome at the apex of the firmament. Wolves don't howl at the moon, okay? Just like, where did that come from? Dogs don't howl. I mean, you might on occasion. There's always anomalies. Here's that biblical verse. On this day, his feet, Jesus's feet, will stand on the Mount of Olives east of Jerusalem, and the Mount of Olives will be split in two from east to west. So it's another reference to it. As you can see right here, this is another version of Mount Meru, the light of the world coming up out of it, etc. The Mount of Olives will be split in half. Zechariah 14:4. And here you have the, a depiction of Jesus standing on both sides. Now we meet another character. This is Jack, of course, right? Jack-o'-lantern, etc. He's a pumpkin. So the jack-o'-lanterns, let's talk about the origin of this real quick. But there are things called will-o'-wisps. Okay, wisps of the will, or the spirit, basically spiritual wisps that float about in the air, right? And people would be able to catch these, just like you see in the very first movie we ever broke down, BFG. BFG was a wisp hunter. Okay, he didn't just capture dreams, he captured wisps, which can affect the mind and grant wishes and all this fantastic stuff, but it's actually real. So down here at the bottom, you can actually see another name for them. In this particular image, you see this is an example of a wisp. It's a light. It's electricity. Okay, the atmosphere is electrically amplified. You will often see these things in swampy areas, or places where gases are coming up out of the ground, or places that are prone to have ghost sightings, graveyards, junkyards, landfills, stuff like that. Down here at the very bottom, I don't know if I can zoom in all the way. Here it is. It says Ignis Fatuus, or Fetus, or will of the wisp, right? Ignis means light, basically, to ignite. Will of the wisp, and this is how they're portrayed. Like, it's no secret, it's plasma. It's electricity. It's self-contained toroidal plasma balls that move about and flicker and flutter like little pixies and fairies and stuff. Usually alongside places that have water, or watery places, streams and stuff. And oftentimes they make little sounds, which people interpret as little voices and stuff. Now back to the chicken. She says, "It is not finished. TikTok went berserk," she says. TikTok went berserk. So this robot starts losing his mind. He starts speaking gibberish. It doesn't really make any sense. He goes, "Tickle me, tickle me." And she realizes that he's got these levers on the back. She has to wind up his thought process. She has to wind up his ability to move. She has to wind up these different features. Well, his brain wound all the way down. So she needs to wind him back up. Because TikTok's brain is wound all the way down, he starts doing stupid things and saying dumb things to just get attention. If his brains ran down, how could he talk, right? It happens to people all the time, Jack. All the time. TikTokers have their brains wound all the way down, and they just say stupid stuff without putting any thought into it whatsoever. They do stuff like this all the time. You see that? You see what I did there? TikTok, okay? But yeah, this is when your brain is wound all the way down. And you need to wind your brain back up. Otherwise, you end up like the TikTok in the movie, and you just start saying, tickle me, or whatever random things come to your hollow plasma possessed minds, right? People, this is what I'm saying. It's the season of Satan. It's crazy. It's the world we live in, okay? This is all over the place. Oh, there it is. Here's an advertisement for TikTok. Like, the one eye is the negative energy that comes down from the eye in the sky, and the threefold six is the perfect spiral of all that spiraling plasma that comes down to ground itself. Even the red colors and stuff too. Crazy. Anyways, now they throw together this makeshift sleigh, I guess we'll call this. It flies. It's got like palm fronds and the head of a moose, and it's like a mattress or something like that. It's really weird. So they're up there flying on this mattress, moose mattress, and she falls off in this cloud of this like storm clouds and stuff, and she's falling, and no one knows where she's gonna land, and she's like, "I'm sorry," and she's falling down into this cloud bank, or fog bank possibly, during the storm. Keeps on falling, right? And then bam, lands perfectly without harm. This is called the superhero fall. I don't know what I'm gonna call it the superhero fall. Okay, only superheroes can land like that from extremely high up, right? This also happened in the original Wizard of Oz. If you paid attention, I pointed it out last time when I showed you the Cowardly Lion jumping off of the skyscraper in Oz. Just jumps out of the window of the skyscraper, but he was fine, right? Well, how is that? Why is it that people do this? They have these kinds of falls or whatever, right? This kind of fall, you see this in the Neverending Story. Remember whenever he's on Falkor and he goes upside down, and it's, oh man, and Atreus just falling forever. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, also they fall. Labyrinth, right? Sarah, way up in the sky, like dancing around in the crystal of the sky of the firmament, and then she falls all the way down, lands in the junkyard world because of all that debris that fell down. All this falling stuff, people falling from crazy heights. This is the Nephilim. We saw this in the Lego movie. Remember we broke down Lego movie? Same thing happened. I mean, it's their Legos or whatever, but still, right? Falling from great heights, from high up in the atmosphere without being harmed when they land. This is the Nephilim. They are not the fallen ones. They're the ones that floated down into this world because the atmosphere depressurized, the buoyancy increased, and then as it's reaching equilibrium, things just float back down. You don't actually fall at terminal velocity. So, bam, she falls down. She's totally fine, nothing wrong. The ground opens up beneath her feet, and she falls down. Now they're at Mount Meru, and she falls down into Mount Meru. And if it is Mount Meru, then we should expect her to fall for quite some time because that's a bottomless pit within Mount Meru, right? It's an entrance into the underworld, into the hollow earth. So let's see what happens. She falls down, and the Gnome King is talking to her because he's basically the mountain. And she just falls. She just keeps on falling. This is Alice falling through the rabbit hole. This is Bill and Ted falling forever, right? Let me see what the Gnome King says. Oh, the Gnome King's pissed off because he feels all those emeralds were his. He created all those emeralds. That's true. Okay, the emeralds are created within the earth through electricity and magnetism. Okay, all those crystals and stuff. There's extensive crystal caves within the earth. All right, and it's not just crystals, but it's precious stones, just like you saw within the petrified tree and stuff too. The earth makes those. So she's falling down. The Gnome King's lecturing her about how they stole his emeralds and stuff, and she gets all the way down. Now let's check out the word gnome again. Remember, it means to know. Those who live within the earth, those who live within cavernous systems, the stories imply that they were very intelligent. They lived for a very long time, and therefore, just by default of longer experiences, they have more knowledge than most of us who have very short lifespans and stuff. The knowers, the gnomes, right? Now, back to Mount Meru, right? Which is also the trunk of the tree in Norse mythology called Yggdrasil. The trunk of the tree of Yggdrasil is where one of the Norse gods named Mimir. Okay, there's different ways to pronounce that name, but Mimir lives in his keep. I'll say a keep is a safe haven, basically, or a treasury. Mimir's treasury was called Hod Mimir, which means Mimir's hoard, or treasure hoard, because like I said, down inside the earth, especially within Mount Meru, you're going to find precious jewels, gold, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, all that stuff, because they're all created down inside of the earth in places of power where all that electricity flows for an entire age. So this says scholars generally consider Holdmimis, which is another way of saying Hod Mimir or Holdmims, Holdmimir's Holt, to be another name for Yggdrasil, and connected it to folklore recorded in the continental Germanic folklore, right? So this was the wisest of all of the Norse gods. He lived within Mount Meru. Odin wanted to basically take his head so that he can, ask him questions whenever he wanted to, and Odin wanted to increase his wisdom. And that's how he lost his eye. He had to sacrifice his eye to give it to Mimir. All right, so the Gnome King, which is also a talking rock, convinces Dorothy that her friends have all been turned into trinkets. So she has to go into this room where there's all these trinkets that used to be living, breathing people, animals, whatever it may be, and she has to touch them and say Oz. So she's looking for the scarecrow right now, which is represented by this emerald as a trinket, right? What this is the old world. All of the things that were once amazing in real life and factual and evident have become trinkets. They've become ornaments to us. They've become displays. They've become fanciful. They've become myth and legend and decor or history, okay? And then even right after that, then this is the Gnome King in like his human form. He says, soon there'll be no one left who remembers Oz, right? This is what happens. We have collective worldwide amnesia that sets in, partly due to energetic factors in the world. Like I said, the energy dwindles, so it's no fault of our own that our brains also correspond. But there is some fault on humanity's side where we make certain exceptions, where we stop telling the stories, where we stop, where we start venturing into like technology and the new world and the new ways, and we forget the old ways. But we stop telling those stories, okay? And those stories are history. So we end up forcing ourselves to forget because we don't bring it to mind any longer. Now, the Gnome King turns into this rock giant, this evil rock giant, basically, and he's about to eat all the people, basically. He wants to eat them. So he grabs Jack the pumpkin head, but inside of Jack's pumpkin head, the chicken, Belina, is hiding inside of Jack's head, right? And chickens are outlawed in Oz for a reason. So the chicken pokes her little head out, starts clucking around, and she lays an egg. The egg comes out of the pumpkin's head, and it travels all the way down Mount Meru or whatever, and this guy starts choking. He's like, oh, chicken, oh my God, you did not bring a chicken in here. I'm paraphrasing. And then he says, an egg? And they focus on the eye as he says, an egg. You probably remember, if you've bothered to watch it, we broke down Stranger Things, the first season, right? In Stranger Things, we did a great in-depth discourse on Eggo waffles and why 11, 1 and 1, the pillars, why 11 is so enamored with Eggo waffles, right? I highly recommend going back and checking out that particular section. I can't remember which episode that was, maybe 4 or 5, I can't remember. But they say an egg as they show you an eye, because that is the aegis of Zeus, the shield of Zeus up there in the firmament, the apex. This is the inverted dome, the evil eye, the all-seeing eye that looks down on us, that is invisible to us right now, but will light up and be visible whenever the energy reverses and terrestrial beams of energy and light light up the heavens, light up the eyes, or light up the eye, I should say. So the egg is a portion of the sky, okay? It's the cosmic egg, and it will break open and life will come out of it. Being plasma, heavenly creatures, fractalverse travelers, insectoids, giants, all kinds of weird stuff's going to fall down right out of the sky, animals, as well as come up from the earth as well too, right? But this is the cosmic egg. And then it sort of hardens. It hardens over, right? So the eye is open and then it hardens over. This is basically symbolically showing me the firmament, and the firmament being able to heal itself because it's made out of ice. The gases just refreeze right back into the same shape. Now, he says that you didn't know eggs are poison. Now, eggs are also life, right? They give life and whatnot, right? But if I'm correct about that portion of the firmament, it will break off and it will fall. That's the actual moon that projects the moon into our sky. And that portion of the firmament, the aegis or the edges or whatever you want to call it, right? That falls down. It floats down. And it smashes down into the surface world where we live, and it leaves icebergs and what do you call it when there's like a whole bunch of ice on the land, but it's freshwater? Glaciers, right? All the way around the Arctic Circle. Okay, so that's Humpty Dumpty. They can't put it back together again, and whatnot. Eggs are poison. So that's the fall of sin, or the introduction of sin as well, right? That moon, the ancient moon, was known as Sin. That's the name of the god of the moon in ancient times. Or Shin, you could say. It was an eater god. Poison. Eggs are poison to gnomes. So he swallows the egg. He basically, does one of these things where he turns into like a skeleton or whatever. Now the ruby slippers, the Gnome King actually had those, so she gets them back. I don't know how she got them back, but she got back the ruby slippers. And she says, for the Emerald City and all the people in it to be restored to life. She's wishing for that to happen. Now, there's something with the whole ruby slipper thing. Glass slippers, Cinderella, the Wizard of Oz, you know what I mean? Like shoes that are made out of like crystalline substances or precious stones and stuff. Something to chew on, something to think about. I would be interested in hearing what your thoughts on the symbolism through the plasma apocalypse lens, of course, would be on that. Now, she wishes herself back home. She wishes for Emerald City to be restored, which it will be, okay? So people will return to Hyperborea. If you're interested in that subject, please do check out my new book. You can order it from me personally and get an autograph and some merch and stuff, or you can order it on Amazon. It's called Ancient Oblivion, Return to Hyperborea, and it goes into great details as to all of the things that we're discussing in this particular presentation. Now, she sees Ozma, which is like the true Queen of Oz, basically, and she's on the other side of the mirror. She's trapped in the mirror. The mirror is the firmament. Passing through the mirror, walking through the looking glass, is symbolic of leaving this world and going to the world beyond, outside of ours, okay? Going to another closed system they all open up at the same time, okay? So she sees the queen, which is also reflecting back to her very own world and what will come and what has been. She says, "Help me step through the glass, Dorothy." So she's just going to walk right through, just like Alice in the looking glass. This is the same girl that helped her out at the beginning, right? That's why I said this is basically Alice from The Wizard of Oz. So Alice steps through the looking glass. She pulls her back into her world, and then they meet each other. Dorothy and Alice hanging out together, as it should be. Now, she wishes to go back home. She just wants to go back to Kansas for some stupid reason. I don't know why. The chicken stays in Oz. The chicken's like, I'm not going back to Kansas. I'm not going back to the Dust Bowl and the mud floods and all that garbage. Forget that. I'm staying here. So Dorothy, for some reason, wants to go back to Kansas, right? It's because it's cyclical. Okay, they're just showing you the cyclical nature. Things can't stay that way. They have to shift back and forth. So she wakes up, mud flooded world, right? Destroyed 1800s reset. And then here's Aunt Em rushing into the rescue. Oh, my poor Dorothy. The clinic was hit by lightning and it burned to the ground. I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a really good channel, right? I don't know much about him personally, but there's a channel called My Lunch Break. And I love it. I love this guy. I love his channel. I love his research. I love the points that he makes. And he's brought this up time and time again about this narrative of these places of power, these buildings from antiquity, burning to the ground mysteriously. They all burn to the ground, or they all have to be replaced. Like the evidence is being removed systematically, clearly. And then there's this fake narrative of fires or whatever to buildings like that oftentimes can't even catch on fire. So anyways, here's Aunt Em trying to be a hero. I think she should run away. I think Dorothy should get the hell out of there before Aunt Em, takes some more drastic measures. But anyway, she goes back to her room at Aunt Em's new house. She looks in the mirror and she sees Ozma, right? And then she's like, oh my God, there's a piece of Oz. Like she's remembering as she's looking at the mirror. Instead of staring up at the mirror above, which is the firmament, which is the dark nighttime sky and those stars, and dreaming and wondering about other worlds and space and NASA and all that garbage, now she looks into the mirror and she looks and sees the real Oz that's just on the other side of it. And then she calls for Aunt Em. Like, dude, this Dorothy does not learn her lessons. She's like, Aunt Em, oh my God, right? Did you forget? We're about to be electrocuted for talking about this kind of stuff, right? So then she's about to call Aunt Em. And then the girl who's from Oz knows better. She's using all her synapses. She's back in the world where its energy's all drained and stuff. So this girl goes, shh, we don't talk about this, okay? There's a reason why you don't talk about this. This is the whole Illuminati hush sign. All that stuff is what this is, okay? Everything that I'm disclosing to you and talking about openly, I have not made any promises. I've not made any swearing oaths or blood oaths or anything to keep these secrets. So I'm sharing with you everything that I pick up on, all my breadcrumbs, all my puzzle pieces, fractured as they may be. I offer them to you so that you can compare them with yours and we can find our way back home. But if you start talking about this to all the sleepwalkers out there, they're going to freak out, just like all the weirdos in the Matrix movie. Remember he says like anyone could be an agent, right? This is a secret. This world can't handle the truth, okay? Most of the people in this world are either empty, or they appear to be empty, or very low energy, or they're just plasma possessed. They're evil, okay? And this is their world. This is their kingdom. They don't want to hear about losing their kingdom, magic being restored, no longer being able to be deceptive or hide their thoughts from other people in a world full of telepathy and stuff. They don't want that. That will scare them, okay? So she says, nothing, just a reflection, right? And this is she did well, okay? She picked up what she was laying down there. So she's happy. The people in Oz are happy. It's the return to Hyperborea. She disappears. And that is our presentation for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, the decoding of Return to Oz. Check out my book and website, JayDreamerZ.com. And until next time, I'm JayDreamer saying good vibes and goodbye.
Cool.